Welcome to the Veteran Spouse Network podcast, brought to you in collaboration with Coming Home Well. I'm your host, Hannah O'Brien, both a veteran spouse and the program manager for the Veteran Spouse Network. On each episode of our show, I will host different guests to learn more about the stories, unmet needs, and resources available to our military and veteran families. We're the show that's making space for your stories, so that here you know you're never alone. Welcome back to the Veteran Spouse Network podcast. This month, we're excited to be joined by veteran spouse Wendy Hively, who is the founder and owner of CharlieMadison Originals, a jewelry company that is so very much more than that. Military and veteran families we know are very service-minded, and this extends far past their military service. There are a few veterans or military and veteran spouses who I know who aren't actively giving back to their community or looking for ways to give back to the community. I think that's what's so incredible about this community and why I love to be a part of it. We also know that many members of this community are leaders and go-getters, and they often are kind of business-minded and maybe starting their own businesses or nonprofits or have that interest and want to learn more about it. And we know, and we're going to hear a lot today, that it's no easy feat to stand up a business, but it is exciting and something a lot of us in this community think about and kind of wish for. I know my husband had that wish for a long time. And I know something I've heard a lot from those who are kind of having that idea is they're kind of often stuck between, do I want to go the nonprofit route and give back, or do I want to go and start a business? And kind of looking for that way to, maybe meet in the middle and get some of that service to the community through whatever endeavor that is. And so I was really excited to bring on Wendy because I think CharlieMadison Originals is a perfect example of how to start a business that really does have a community focus. And so we're going to get to hear all about it from Wendy. And so with that, Wendy, I'd love to turn it over to you just to tell our listeners a little bit more about yourself, your family, and of course, CharlieMadison Originals.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to talk to you today. And being a veteran spouse myself, I am so excited to be with you on the Veteran Spouse Network. So I'm Wendy Hively. I am the founder and owner of CharlieMadison Originals. And I'll talk about that in a minute. But first, I'll tell you a little about my family. We are a veteran Navy family, and gosh, I just thought about it before we started. My husband served 20 years, and he retired in 2007. So it's been a hot minute since we lived active duty life, and I know things have changed a lot. We weren't your typical military family with tons of PCSs and deployments. We had really, well, two PCSs to Okinawa, Japan, and back, and then one deployment during Hurricane Katrina when my husband got deployed on the USS Comfort to help with the folks who were devastated down in that area after the hurricane. So not your typical separations that many military families go through, but gosh, that 1 month deployment felt like an awful long time. And I still feel like I can remember it to this day, like 20 years later. So I think everybody probably has that same feeling. We have a big legacy of military service in our family. We have 4 service branches and 3 generations of military veterans in our family. So it runs the gamut from grandfathers to cousins to a sister-in-law and everything in between. And that's really, that heritage kind of gives us that again, that belief in community and that belief in supporting others. So yeah, so we live just outside Washington, D.C. in Maryland, and we have 2 girls, Charlotte and Madison. And in case you haven't made that connection, you put their names together and you get CharlieMadison. So they are now grown. Charlotte is 21. She's still in college. Madison is almost 27. And that segs right into CharlieMadison Originals. We are a jewelry company, but it's really just not about the jewelry. It's about the meaning behind the jewelry and how that impacts you in your daily life. So we create jewelry to empower women, but also for military families to keep them connected throughout all of the different seasons of military life. I just mentioned PCS, deployment, but even retirement, loss of a service member, unfortunately. But that's something that you need meaning behind. And so we really try to listen to our community and create things that they're asking for to help them get through those tough times and celebrate the good times. So I started CharlieMadison Originals, gosh, over 10 years ago. The name, I have to give credit to my husband. It was his idea to name it after our daughters, but it's more than just a name after our family. It really represents what family means to us, not the family really that you choose, not the family you're born into or you share DNA with, but the family that you choose along the way. And we know that's really important with military families. So I've ran CharlieMadison Originals for a while by myself, but I have been so fortunate and lucky in the past 3 years to have my daughter Madison as our marketing director, and not just that, but so much more. She does everything, I do everything, and it's just the two of us. So if you come to our website and you think, "Wow, they're such a big company," nope, we are just two, and
With a
and we
big
run
impact.
it with a big impact. Um, so speaking of impact, that brings us to the jewelry, but how we translate our sales into making an impact in the military community. We give back 5% of our sales annually to military affiliated nonprofit organizations. And we also do other things within the community that I'll talk about later, but that's really our big impact in a way that we honor our family history and legacy of service.
Incredible. Um, I just, I love that you named it after that. I love that you guys work together. We're going to talk some about that. Um, I think, I hear there's a lot of, it's easy to have an idea, right? And
Yes,
say,
yes.
hey, I think whether it's a service, a product, what have you, arriving at the decision to pull the trigger and knowing how hard it can be to get something off the ground is another thing altogether. So I'd love to hear a little bit how you and your family, because it
Mhm.
did involve everybody, kind of how did you arrive at the decision that, hey, this is something we really should do and let's do it?
I don't know for us if it was a should thing. I've always been a creative, and
Mm.
the jewelry making started as a hobby, and so it really sort of, I don't know, moved into a business. But the giving back part came later, but it really grew from something small. We started out on Etsy, and I know a lot of people
Yeah.
will relate to that. We have Etsy. We also have, there's Spousely now, which is a marketplace for veteran and military spouse and veteran families to sell their products on. And so a lot of people can relate to that. That starting small, like, oh, I have this hobby, I really want to see where it goes. And the entry into online business is much lower than it was years ago. It's so much easier to start a business now. So for me, it was that natural pathway, and it just grew and grew and grew. And then when we took on the giving back component, I think that really made a big impact in how we could grow our business. So um, it still was a family decision because honestly, I couldn't do this without the support of my husband. And I think I hear a lot of people say that. My spouse is very supportive, couldn't do it without them. And that is a really important part of running your own business is having that family, that buy-in, not just of the money. Sometimes you have that big outlay of money, but of the time, of the time that you're going to invest in it. So I think that can be a big decision maker.
It certainly can. I think I told you this when we talked about my husband did decide to pull the trigger on a business during the pandemic, which was interesting.
Mhm.
And it was, and when he would talk about it, we closed the doors on it a couple of years after that. But, he would say that our business. And sometimes I was like, really? Because like day to day, I'm not doing much, but exactly to you, what you were saying, I was probably doing more than I thought I was. And just to have the support, that's needed when he was a one-man show, just like you were when you guys got started. So,
Well,
uh,
you may have felt like you weren't doing much, but the things that you do behind the scenes free up the time for him to do the business stuff. So I think, we have to think about it in that way.
yeah, and make the
Yeah,
decision in that way. And I do
exactly.
remember that having that was a lot of conversation to figure out, okay, does this, are we pulling the trigger on this? So
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
very cool. So yeah, we've referenced and we've heard some about the giving back, but I
Mhm.
know y'all do a lot, and are in different ways that you're finding ways to give back to the military veteran community. So I'd love to just hear more about that, as well as is what that means to you, why that's important, to be a component of your business.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we have always said we're community focused, and honestly, I think that is not only the most important part of our business, but I think that is what makes our business so successful is the community involvement and the giving back. So there are I'm just going to talk about four ways now. There's a lot of other ways, but in addition to that annual giving back component, we have a Facebook community, which is our direct connection to sort of what we can consider our super fans, our VIPs. So that's a direct way that we, aside from regular social media, that we can interact with our community, the community that buys from us. We also do collaborations with brands and nonprofits where we create a bracelet that represents their mission, and we either sometimes they just buy them to give to say give out at a workshop or to give to their community, but we also do sell them on our website and give back 15% of the sales of that bracelet directly back to that organization. So um, we often joke that we collaborations are what we do best. I mean, we have kind of really nailed the collaboration, and we're always looking for people to collaborate with. So I think that is a key, especially now in this noisy online um, business world, that you collaborate with people. I think that's really important. So we do collaborations. Um, we also have on our blog two interview series, one called Meet a Mill Spouse, where we share stories of military spouses and what they are really into and what the organizations or the things that they support. And then we've been doing that for 5 years, and then we have another one that we started this year for women entrepreneurs. So sharing their stories, their business, their journey, like what their challenges and what they've learned. So again, we're giving back in a way that is non-monetary by just giving by using our platform to shine a light on people who are doing really great things in the community. So I think that's super important. The last thing that we've done that also I am very proud of and I stand behind is that whenever we need something done in our business that we can't do ourselves, we go to veteran or military spouse-owned businesses. I mean, we've bookkeeping, our web team, photography, graphic design, copywriting. That's just the ones I can think of off the top of my head. But we make it we make it a point and intent to intentionally source within the community rather than going outside unless it's absolutely necessary.
Awesome.
So yeah, yeah. So that that is so those are just the four of the things, but all very different things,
Yeah.
but ways to support. So we always tell people think outside the box. We've always tried to do things aren't that maybe we've taken from another industry and tailored it to what we're doing, but just ways to get the community involved. So I think that's so important.
And that's amazing. And I think hearing all those options for those who are kind of, that may seem lofty or whatever, they're trying to figure out those ways to give back, just to hear that there can be so many different approaches to that, monetary or not.
Yeah.
Um, I hope that's very valuable to people, because I do think that, I mean, I do hear that so much from members of this population, like business. nonprofit, business nonprofit. I have an idea, and there's a way to do a little bit of both, which I think is really cool how you guys have been able to kind of touch different aspects of both.
There is. And like I said, we've taken ideas like, for instance, this year I'm sure everybody has bought from one of those Pampered Chef fundraisers where we started doing that. I was like, what a cool idea. So we started it. We've done it really with just one nonprofit so far, but it's a way to do something different. And the nonprofit we worked with was amazing and just so grateful. And so there are ways to take a for-profit business and a nonprofit business and make it work for both of you.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. And the collaboration too is like, and I think that's something from the looking at the nonprofit side is in some areas there are gaps and those gaps need to be filled, but in others there's kind of an oversaturation.
Yeah.
And so if there's a way to, go for profit and then, do various collaborations and supporting other nonprofits where those things already exist and are doing that, then that's again
Yeah, it's a
another way
win-win.
to a
Yeah.
win-win.
Yeah, a win-win.
Yeah. Yeah, because sometimes, and we hear that a lot, like, oh, I had thought about creating a nonprofit, like doing this thing. And it's like, great, you don't have to like get involved with us or
Exactly.
go do something else. And how can we support you as a business owner? So yeah,
Yeah,
collaboration, there's never really enough of.
I
Um,
agree. Agree.
Amazing. I had initially planned on asking you about this, but I think it'd be really cool for people to hear, like talking about, like it made me think of it when we were talking about the collaboration with different organizations, but even beyond that, I don't know if it's given an example or something, but hearing a little bit more about like the actual like design process of the bracelets and how, because again,
Mm,
it's not just like, cool, I have this piece of jewelry, I thought it looked pretty. Um,
yeah.
of thing, like, but really how that meaning is created and just even just like a high level example, I think would be really helpful for people to understand it's more than jewelry.
Sure. Yeah, sure. We we've really honed our process for this. We created this really cool portal where we run people through, and it's really gotten streamlined over the years. But we start with the organization that we're working with, whether it's their colors or a meaning they want to convey, and we ask them. Um, Many of them have a very strong mission or a trying to think like a meaning that they want the bracelet to represent for the people that they give it to. And so we always start with that. Typically we use their organization's colors, but then there's a little meaning card that comes with every bracelet. And so we we write up and craft a meaning that represents that bracelet for the organization. So everything is done again collaboratively.
Mhm.
It's not like we're not saying you have to do it this way. We we have the creative freedom, which organizations are very happy about because they don't want to do the creative part. So we're
Right.
really good with that, but we really work to make sure they, number one, love the bracelet, and number two, have a meaning that is something that they love that represents their organization. So yeah, so it it really goes there's just a lot that goes behind it, but it's something impactful for the organization we're working with. Yeah.
Very, very cool. Yeah, because it's, I mean, and you see some versions of that, but you'd never hearing, usually it's just the organization like, cool, this represents this, but that
Yes.
collaboration and thought that goes into that is really lovely. Um, all right, so shifting gears, I know that was, but I was like, I'm curious about that.
Yeah, no, it was a great question.
Yeah. Um, so we talked a little bit kind of about the family affair, which honestly, with any business, like we were talking about, there's some of that, whether it's a direct involvement in the company or not. Um, you have a little bit of both, and
Hmm.
that, you have your family support, and then you actually are working with your daughter. So I'd love to hear a little bit just about how that is, how that goes, like working with your family.
Yeah. It it really is a dream come true, as cheesy as that sounds, because I know people think, oh, wow, family business, there's horror stories.
Yeah.
That is not our experience. We're a really close family. I mean, our studio is on the fourth floor of our house. So
Mhm.
we are here, working at home. It's close quarters, but that's just our family dynamic. And so it works for us. She is very much like me. That could be, I guess, good or bad, but she's independent. She's focused. She has her to-do lists and checks things off like I do. So she's also very self-motivated and she has a lot of ideas. And I think the really great thing about working with her is that her experience as a younger person now through social media gives us a little bit of a different vibe with
Yeah.
our videos because she does all the video stuff. So I could age us out very quickly because I don't keep up with that. And honestly, we have TikTok too. I can't even get in our TikTok account.
Mhm.
She just rolls with it. So I think it's a really good match because we each bring something to the table that connects with different, I guess, different age groups of people of customers in the community. So it's really beneficial. And my younger daughter has started working with us a little bit as an intern. She's doing marketing as well. So when we can get her to focus and when we can get her to focus, she helps and she's really great too. But yeah, it's really been a wonderful experience working as a family.
Love to hear it. And yeah, everything you're saying, Mitchell, that needs to be thoughtfully considered if for anyone, it's not necessarily gonna be everyone's dynamic. So it's something to
I
go.
would say, though, the really important thing as a takeaway for people who are listening, that if you are considering working with a family member or members, that you clearly write out the expectations of who's taking care of what
Yes.
and deadlines and things like that. Because I think it's easy sometimes to say, well, they're family, they've got it, or I'll do it when I do it. But no, there really are things that have to get done at certain times. So I think that's important too.
No, that's amazing advice. Yeah, because yeah, lines can get blurred if you let them, I imagine.
Yes.
All right. Let's see. All right. So we've talked about some of the great things, but I can't imagine, starting a business, running a business is without its challenges. And I think also that's what can scare a lot of people, and maybe they never
Mhm.
get it off the ground because they're worried about those challenges. So kind of a two-part question. I'd love to hear what you kind of think was the most challenging part about kind of getting it off the
Mhm.
ground, and then also kind of what you think is the most challenging part today.
As I was thinking about this question earlier today, I realized that the answer to both of those questions is very similar, at least at this point in our business, I think. Um, Starting, a lot of people, and I hear this from people when we go to conferences and stuff, like I don't know where to start. I can't find the resources. And again, like I said earlier, this world of online makes it easy to start a business. The entry point is easy, but then it's like drinking from a fire hose. So you don't know, first, you don't know where to go. Then you start getting all of the information and you don't know what to do with it. So I think that's a challenge of starting a business, that you don't know where to go to get all the things done. And as the business grows and you're looking to expand or bump up to the next level, I've found that again, the resources are very minimal. So it's so much at the beginning, but again, it's information. It's hard to find resources that don't cost you $20,000 for a personal coach to get you going and growing. And so I just have always wanted to simplify things for people, and we're talking about having an educational component to our business as well, to try to help people simplify things a little bit, and that we're going to be working on that for next year. But information where to get it and where to get good information, I think is the very biggest challenge that businesses or early entrepreneurs face.
Yes. And I think that can extend to a lot of things. We hear that with services
Yeah,
too, right? It's just can
yeah,
be the drinking from the water hose. But yeah, I think that's interesting what you're saying about, yeah, the entry point has lowered. Some things are
yeah,
very easy, but
yeah.
that doesn't mean running the business is easy.
Right. Like setting up a
Yeah,
website is super easy.
yeah,
Listing things on Etsy or Spouse Lease, it's
yeah,
easy. But
easy.
but then what comes next? It's
Yeah,
like
or the growth, or
the
yeah,
growth.
you get to the next step. Um, well, without, teasing too much about kind of what you alluded to as plans for 2025, is there anything, for listeners off the top of your head you found to be especially helpful, whether that's organizations that, kind of
Yeah.
support entrepreneurs or resources?
Scribbled down four today that we know have good resources. The first one is AMC, the Association of Military Spouse Entrepreneurs. They're really great. IVMF Syracuse, it's
Mm,
at Syracuse University. It's the Institute for Veteran and Military Families. I believe I got that right,
you
that
did.
acronym. Bunker Labs is another one. And
Yeah.
then I really want to shout out American Corporate Partners, ACP. They have uh, um, a mentoring program. It's a 1 year mentoring program, and they pair a veteran or a military spouse with a mentor. It could be for starting your own business. It could be for getting a job somewhere else. It could be anything you want, but you're paired with a mentor, and you spend a year together working on your idea, working on things you need help with. And I can say that this is a really great opportunity because I was a mentor to someone. I did it for a year. And to see her start out not knowing what she wanted to do and how to really run a business, to showing her art in shows now today is just so gratifying. And the program is free. So, just it's really, really great how many free resources are available in the community.
That is, and to for that longevity of
Yeah,
support. Sometimes it's here,
absolutely.
okay, we'll take this little, training, or you can have a couple meetings with somebody and then good luck. But again,
Yep.
it doesn't help you really get the full spectrum of
Yeah,
support.
it's a short commitment. This is a commitment, and it's a
Yeah.
commitment on both sides. And so I think you can really get a lot out of it.
Yeah, yeah, if you're serious about it. Very cool. And then Wendy, I'm correct. This business is not your full-time job,
It
right?
is not. It is not. I know, as if all that isn't enough. I am I am also a scientist, and I work for the Food and Drug Administration. And I have for yeah, I've always worked full time, and so I've always run the business on the side. It can be a lot. It has been a lot over the years, but now in this time, number one, having a partner, my daughter who is working with me, helps incredibly, and also having grown children. So I know if you're listening and you have small children and you say, but how can I do it? I see you doing it. But when I had small children, it was not possible to do what I'm doing now. So things do get easier as your kids get older. It's a challenge. Um, but outsourcing things that you, number one, don't like to do, don't know how to do, are things that will make the biggest impact. And so you can free up your time to work on your business instead of in your business.
Mhm.
Really I think, is the key to kind of taking big steps, especially when you have limited focus time. How about that?
No, and that
Yeah.
I think that's cool to hear too, because I think that's another thing, right, that can kind of stop people from pulling the trigger is they might not be able to be all in,
Yep.
on something. And so I think to hear that there is a way to, do it, and I love those tips because yeah, I can't imagine doing it all,
Yes. Well,
working and
you
being.
you can, as the saying goes, you can do anything you want, but you can't do everything. Yeah.
Whoever. Right. Again, those things to consider, for those people who are trying to make this decision, right? It's not one to make lightly, but like
Yeah.
knowing what you need to consider.
Yeah.
The battle.
Asking the right questions, having the right conversations. Yeah. Yeah.
Very cool. Um, What else do I have for you? Okay, we talked about resources. I love that. I think that's going to be so helpful. Um, I always like, no matter what the topic is, I always kind of love to end with like pieces of wisdom, words of advice. I think particularly our listeners today may be those who are, either business owners themselves or on the fence, like we're talking about. So I think with that in mind, if you had like any final kind of tidbits of tips or pieces of advice that you've collected along the way for anyone who kind of might be on the fence or trying to grow a business or anything like that or involve community.
Yes, the advice part is always my favorite to hear how other people are doing it. I have two really great things that have helped me along the way. The first is to really focus on creating a brand story because people don't buy from you because they love what you create. They buy from you because they believe in what you're doing and they connect with you. So that brand story, that meaning or purpose behind what you're doing is super important. So that's always what I tell people. The second one is whether it's um, family and friends or the industry that you're in, don't let other people dictate what you're doing. I mean, I think one thing, Brene Brown is the one who said this, that, don't take advice from people who aren't willing to step in the ring and
Mhm.
fight with
Yeah.
you. That's number one. But the industry that you're in can also really influence you. And I have a story to go along with this that I think is really fun because for so many years in the jewelry industry, we are told you have to create collections every time you release something, and you have to have matching necklaces, bracelets, and earrings, and everything has to go together. And I really struggled with that until I realized that I didn't like to do that. And I was like, okay, well, maybe I don't have to do that. And your industry will tell you, get back in line and do what we're telling you so you can be a success. But I had a mentor and we were talking one day, and I told her this, and I said, but I just don't like that. I just like to make bracelets. And she said, Wendy, if you want to be the bracelet queen, you be the bracelet queen. And so that stuck with me because I just find that we let outsiders influence what we're doing. We know our business best. We know what we're doing. It's great to take advice. It's great to take training, to listen to people, to read things, but ultimately the decision is yours. And don't let people tell you you have to do something one way. I always say if you have an idea, try it out. If it doesn't work, move on to something else. Don't get stuck on it. But again, just listen to what you want to do and listen to your heart. Put your heart in your business and you can't go wrong.
Right. And like thinking about everything we've talked about, and even your first piece of advice about the kind of brand story is like as a buyer, like, right, if you're
Yeah.
doing everything the right way, like I care about the message and the meaning
Hmm.
associated with this bracelet. I probably don't care that there's not a matching set necklace and earrings if I'm already bought
Exactly.
in to what you want me to buy into.
Yeah, yeah. So that brand story, either you're connecting with a meaning or you're solving a problem for somebody. So those two things can really that impacts, where people are willing to buy from.
Well, I love this. I mean, obviously, we've talked before this, and I know a decent amount about your the work that you guys do, but I've learned so much just talking to you today, and I this was so much more than I thought it was going to be, and I already had pretty high expectations. So I
Oh,
hope our viewers or listeners rather feel the same. Um, Plug where we can, I mean, I don't want to say the website wrong, so I will have you
mm,
say the website where people
yeah.
can go and actually check out all this amazing jewelry.
Yep, it's CharlieMadisonOriginals.com. Long, but yep.
But simple. Name.com.
Yeah. And
But
thank you for having me. I just, my heart is with veteran spouses because, I didn't start my business and find a real connection in the community until I was a veteran
Mhm.
spouse. So don't count yourself out. It's, we're always part of this community. And I think sometimes people might think, well, I'm not active duty anymore. Yes, but we're all part of this community. And so it's
We
really important.
are, and
We
that is so much
are.
like our,
Yeah.
so I was so excited we met you and had you on because, in that part of our mission we share. And
Yes.
so many others out there probably listening feel it as well, and hopefully will,
I
get
hope so.
excited, which is what
Yeah.
we
So,
want, and feel
yes.
empowered, which is
Empowering. It just came out right before, yep, when you said it, empowering.
perfect.
Yeah. So,
Well,
yes.
Wendy, I'm so excited to have had you on and to get to share what you do, and also just kind of your lessons learned that I think will really benefit people. So I so appreciate you being on.
Thank
Um,
you.
for those listening, I'll make sure where we drop this, we'll have the link as well so you can access stuff. This will, you know, be a great treat yourself gift, or for loved ones, for what, speaks to you, speaks to them. So thank you, Wendy.
Thank you.
We'll see you next month. Thanks again for joining us on the Veteran Spouse Network podcast, brought to you in collaboration with Coming Home Well. We thank you for listening today and hope today's session left you feeling a little more connected or gave you some insight into the experiences of our military and veteran families. Don't forget to check us out at veteranspousenetwork.org to learn more about how our military and veteran families can receive the support they deserve.